Hello all and welcome, and I am the mgtowphilosopher. And in this video, I'd like to give my general take on the two latest additions to the Star Wars saga. Now, I remember a couple years back, before the first movie was going to come out in this new trilogy, and I knew it was going to suck. I had a friend of mine who was going to go to see it with his son, and I said to him, "Man, you are going to be very disappointed, and your son is going to be extremely unhappy. Best you skip this movie. Save yourself the time and money and aggravation." He's like, "Oh, maybe it'll be good." Yeah, okay. And then when he went to see it, he came and talked to me. He's like, "Man, that movie was so horrible. You were right, man. It's nothing compared to the originals." And later on, when it came out on DVD, because I wasn't going to spend money to see it in the theater, because I knew it was going to be crap, I watched it. And I got to tell you, I was sorely disappointed. It was, at that time, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Now that this latest one has come out, that is by far the worst movie I've ever seen. Beats every other bad movie I've seen in my life. It's that bad. And I'm going to tell you why these movies are so bad and what could be done to make them better, but of course they're not going to do that. Now, these movies are so bad because, as I said in a recent video I released solely as a review for the second movie, is that they're social justice warrior, leftist, socialism vehicles. That's all. They're just been created to push a socialist agenda, nothing more. Now, the first movie, of course, you know it's going to be crap. Right when it starts, you've got, silly scenes with the, what's his name, Finn, and he's having these moral problems with killing, and, he looks like a simp moron. Immediately, he's got that vacant stare, and he's a horrible actor, and it's like, oh boy, I can tell this guy's going to be the bumbling fool, Ray Romano of of Star Wars, and sure enough, he was the court jester of the movie. Horrible actor, but of course the role itself is a horrible one. Not a lot you can do about it, but again, he was not a very good actor. Still, very poor acting. Doesn't seem very genuine to me. He's very awkward in the way that he moves and the way he acts and the way he delivers his lines. Of course, so is the girl that plays Rey. She's extremely awkward and just halting in the way she speaks. She's so fake. Anyway, after that, cut to Rey on her little desert planet. I mean, this is when you know the movie's going to be crap. Because all of us out there know that women can't survive on their own, okay? Like, we've all seen those shows that are similar to Survivor and all, where they put the women out in the wilderness by themselves, these feminist shows, where everybody that's directing and producing this show has drank the feminist Kool-Aid, and they think that women are equal to men, and they put the women on the desert island, and it's like suddenly the women start dying and shit, and it's like, what? What's going on here? But women are strong and can take care of themselves, and the women start getting all sick and messed up and starving, and they're shivering, and they're getting sick, and they're looking half dead, and the men are doing fine on their island. It's like, what's going on? But we were taught by feminism and the modern culture that women are equal. I can do anything men can do. No. So I knew the movie was going to be immediately crap when you see Rey in the middle of a desert, scrounging for parts and shit, and she's surviving on her own. She's feeding herself. She's living by herself. She's taking care of herself. Bullshit. That's just not reality. And then throughout the whole first movie, and I'm not going to make this video a review, it's just going to be a general overview and my general thoughts. And, throughout the whole movie, she's beating people up with that staff of hers, and then she beats up and nearly kills Kylo Ren. I mean, come on. She had zero training. And by the way, how is she beating people up with that staff? I mean, if you watch my video reviewing the movie, and if you've seen the second movie, her parents were nothing more than junk dealers. They were junk collectors, junk dealers. They sold their child to some junk dealer dude so he could use her to go out and scrounge for parts and shit in exchange for a little bit of food. I mean, come on. Where did she get this weapons training? Where did she learn how to fight? I can tell you, as somebody who knows a lot about combat arts, combat, fighting with weapons, fighting without weapons. You are not going to be able to fight like that without training. It doesn't happen. There is no natural hormone or gene or anything in your body that makes you have that kind of skill. You might have natural aggressiveness, but you're not going to be able to use a staff with the kind of skill where you can beat up 2, 3 people, especially when they're men and you're a weak woman. Oh, but of course, she's what is called a Mary Sue. And a Mary Sue is a woman who essentially does everything perfect. It's a book character, a movie character, a literary character of some kind. A character in a movie who is perfect. Nothing challenges them. They pick stuff up immediately. They do everything perfect. They don't make mistakes. They're uber powerful, uber great at everything they do. That's a Mary Sue. That's what she is. She doesn't make any mistakes. She does everything perfectly. She's able to scrounge for parts from ships. She's able to fly the Millennium Falcon with expert skill, even though she's never flown a ship before. What is this? She's living on a desert planet since she was a little baby. And you can see cutscenes where she's a baby, looking up at the ship of her parents flying away. No, come back. And she's like 5 or 6 years old. Where did she get her flight training? I mean, are we supposed to assume that this junk dealer that took her in and bought her, essentially, and used her as somebody to scrounge for parts out in the desert from old, broken down Star Destroyers that crashed on the planet, that he's at some point taught her how to fly a ship? Why? What for? All she is a junk collector running around the desert collecting junk, scrounging for parts that she can sell for some kind of weird little discs that if she pours water on them, they turn into a bran muffins. I mean, what the fuck is going on here? Why? Why can she fly the Millennium Falcon and apparently any other ship she comes across? And not only can she fly it, but when she gets into it and it breaks down, she knows how to fix it. She knows how to fix it better than Han Solo. He says what the problem is, and she says it right before him. She knows everything. She's perfect. Well, this is the feminist message, of course. Women are perfect. Women are wonderful. Women are great. Women are better than men. She beats up all the men. She's better than Han Solo. She can fix his ship better than he can, and he practically built the fucking thing. And that's what irks me about these movies. There's no focus on the storytelling. There's no concern or consideration for telling a good story. It's all about creating a vehicle to deliver this retarded, crappy message that is a 100% complete lie. That women are all like Rey. Or can be like Rey. I mean, show me a woman out there who can fly a fighter jet without having had any training. This is the interesting thing. I mean... People watch these Star Wars movies and think, oh, well, these things, that panel, you just push a button here and there. It's some kind of automatic pilot, and then you just, steer it left, steer it right. I mean, what are you kidding me? These are interstellar craft that can fly at super fast speeds and go through wormholes and shit and go at the speed of light or near to it. You can't reach the speed of light, of course. If you did, you would attain infinite mass and just destroy the universe or some shit. But regardless... where did she learn to do this? I mean, on Earth, flying far less sophisticated fighter jets, you have to have years and years of training. Oh, but Rey's had no training that we know of. But she just gets into the Millennium Falcon and poof, she's some kind of awesome pilot. She's flying through cracks that the ship will barely fit through, spinning and diving, and she's out flying TIE fighter pilots who've had years of training. Oh, but they're men, of course. So they're men. So they're total loser morons, and she can do everything better than they can. And not only can she fly better, but she can fight better. That's very interesting. And then she fights Kylo Ren. Now, here's the very interesting thing. I mean, people are saying, oh, how did she beat him? Because the movie wants to make it look like women are somehow super beings. They're all Mary Sues. Of course, you had lots of people online trying to create excuses. Star Wars fanboys who want to love the movie so much that they're willing to essentially dismiss everything that they know not only about the Star Wars universe, but about reality. Oh, well, Chewbacca shot Kylo Ren in the side with the crossbow thing after he killed his father. And so he was injured and, he couldn't fight so well. Oh, come on. He's a dark side user. Pain feeds his power. Okay, so that's not it. And good God, I mean, even what's his name? Finn was able to hold his own for a short period with Kylo Ren. I mean, what's going on here, really? I mean, suddenly, this is another thing that annoys me. And I'm going to get off the feminist, socialist, cultural Marxist, leftist track for a second that this movie takes and just talk purely about Star Wars and the Star Wars universe, okay? Now, we know from the first movies, all right, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, that using the Force takes a lot of time and skill. I mean, even when Luke was learning from Obi-Wan, he learned very little while they were traveling on the Millennium Falcon, but he learned some, kind of a little introductory course. But it took years for him to develop enough skill just to pull the lightsaber to his hand. And it was loosely held in some snow, and that was very difficult for him when he was captured by that wampa, that giant freaking thing, whatever it was called. I don't know what it was called. Maybe the wampas were the things they rode around on. I'm not no expert on fucking Star Wars, but bear with me here, okay? That big Yeti-looking thing that grabbed him and knocked him out, and he was hanging from the ceiling. And he reached out for the lightsaber, and it took all his effort and strength to pull it to his hand. Now, fast forward, okay, to Rey, and she's able to pull it to her hand and yank it away from Kylo Ren's influence with ease. What's going on here? And then fast forward again, okay, to when he trains with Yoda. Now, many people have guesstimated it was anywhere from a few days to a couple weeks that he was with Yoda. Nobody knows how long it took the Millennium Falcon to get from where it broke down, escaping the Imperial fleet, to get to Cloud City. It could have taken days. People estimate more like weeks. Whatever, but it took some time. And during that time, Luke was training with Yoda. And in that short period of time, he learned a fair amount, but he still wasn't able to control the Force. I mean, either Darth Vader was throwing all those boxes at him that were hitting him in Cloud City when they were fighting, or Luke's own fear, Luke's own power over the Force was so out of control that those were hitting him because his own power was just out of control. It's hard to say, but what we can say is, after far more training than Rey got, he could hardly use the Force, not with any real skill anyway. He needed constant tutoring and supervision from Yoda. He wasn't even able to lift that X-Wing out of the water. So we know that it takes years and years, if not a decade or more, to gain proficiency with the Force. Now, Kylo Ren has been training his whole life. I mean, he's at least in his late 20s. I mean, it's been 30 plus years since The Last Jedi ended. We can reasonably estimate that he's at least 25 years old, maybe more like 27, 28. So he's been training in the Force his whole life. 2 decades at least. And he gets beat up by some random guy who's a clown. The black guy Finn, who was a clown, who was a jester, who was a fool. He nearly gets beaten by that guy, who, I mean, at least holds his own for some time against Kylo Ren. I mean, come on. That doesn't make sense. Ridiculous. Now, arguably, Finn, he trained to be a freaking stormtrooper. He's trained his whole life as a warrior. And yet here comes Mary Sue Rey along, and she beats Kylo Ren. She has 0 combat training. What the hell's going on here? What's going on? This is such nonsense. It's nonsense, and I'm sorry, I cannot suspend reality that much. I mean, yeah, I can suspend reality some. Yeah, little Ewoks running around, a bunch of midgets in freaking fursuits, a bunch of furries running around. Okay, fine, whatever. Maybe on some planet somewhere, there could be a bunch of cute, cuddly little animals running around that have little 5-pound bows that can penetrate stormtrooper armor. They're dropping rocks on stormtroopers' heads when the stormtroopers have shock helmets on, and somehow that's knocking them out. Okay, I could suspend reality to that point, because at least rocks are landing on a freaking somebody's head. And at least an arrow is being shot from a bow, and maybe, possibly, the arrow could be hitting the joints in the armor or something. I mean, these are possibilities, but a woman who has no training, 0 training in combat, 0 training as a Jedi, can use the Force and beat somebody who is a trained Jedi Knight like Kylo Ren. What is going on here? It totally contradicts not only canon, but everything we know from the prior 6 movies. It's total BS. It doesn't in any way match up with the prior movies at all. And that's one reason it's such a bad movie. And another reason it wasn't made to be a movie. It was made as a big propaganda film to push social justice warrior culture. That's it. It wasn't created to entertain. It wasn't created to be a quality film experience. The character development is non-existent. Who is Rey? Who is Finn? Who is Poe Dameron? Who are these people? We don't know who they are. We don't know anything about Han Solo in the first movie of this new trilogy, or Chewbacca. What have they been doing for 30 years? I mean, there's just nothing in the way of character development at all. Let alone story development. Who's the First Order? Where does the First Order come from? It's never mentioned. We assume it's a remnant of the Empire, but how could a remnant of the Empire be so powerful? And how are they able, by the way, the First Order, how were they able to build a planet-sized weapon when it took the Emperor and like a third or something, some goofy nerd mathematicians did an estimation of how much it would cost in materials and labor insofar to build a Death Star, and they reckon that it cost 1/3 of the galactic budget for like 10 years or something to build the freaking thing. How in the hell does the First Order build something that's the size of a planet without that kind of budget? I mean, do the market principles just go out the window? I mean, there is money in the Star Wars universe. It's called credits. It seems to be the generic name for money in all the science fiction movies, credits and shit like that. Credits. It could, come on, George Lucas, you couldn't come up with something better than that. But anyway, credits, so people have to get paid. People get paid for their work. They couldn't have all slave labor. I mean, they have to have paid people. A planet size, that will cost multiples of whatever it costs to build the Death Star. And yet somehow they were able to get the resources when they don't run the whole galaxy, far from it, this First Order, when they're just a small remnant of what the Empire actually was. Really? And don't even get me started on the hyperspace capabilities where they could open a hyperspace corridor and shoot the weapon through hyperspace, and then it would exit hyperspace and the beam would split into like 5 or 6 different beams. So wait a second. If you've seen the first movie, they destroyed a whole bunch of planets that had rebel governments and were allied with the rebellion or the resistance, or they're the new galactic government. But why is it called the resistance government? And they're the galactic government. They're the new government. Okay? How? I mean, with all the planets in the same system? Because if not, how did all these different beams... First of all, I'd like to know how these beams that were shot by this supposed hyperspace cannon that the planet was, how'd they split when they came out of hyperspace and hit 5 different places? How did they hit 5 or 6 or however many different planets? If you watch the movie, you'll see the beam becomes like many different beams. It splits into numerous beams. How? Was there some kind of refractory device on the other end that split it? Because it's just an energy beam. It can't split itself. What's going on here? And then how in the world would it hit all of these planets unless they're in the same system, in the same general vicinity? If not, wouldn't new hyperspace corridors have to have opened up to redirect that beam to the next planet that was a target? None of it makes any sense. The whole movie doesn't make any sense, really. I mean, I can suspend reality to a certain point, but Disney really, really, really underestimates the intelligence of the viewers of these movies. And don't even get me started with this new movie. She's overpowered. She is like Yoda on steroids. She can do everything. Everything. She can even beat Luke Skywalker. That's right. In the second movie, she beats Luke Skywalker after about 18 hours of training. Okay? Beats the most powerful Jedi Master that exists. And George Lucas said it himself. Luke Skywalker was as powerful as his father, Anakin, and he's not missing all the body parts, so he's got most of his midichlorians. He lost a hand, and that's about it. So how the hell is she beating him in a battle? That's absurd. The whole movie is absurdity. It contradicts its own origins in terms of how the Force works, okay? Instead of being something that requires decades of training, apparently, if you have enough Force ability, you can just use the Force at the snap of a finger. No training required. Oh, Kylo Ren, he needed decades worth of training, but Mary Sue, the female, needed no training. So apparently in the Star Wars universe, in the Star Wars galaxy, apparently women have the ability, if they have force sensitivity, to just use the force without any training. But men, they have to go through decades and decades of training. I see. And don't even get me started on how they have made Luke into this whimpering coward who's hiding out on some remote planet. And that's all he's doing. He's hiding out. They portray him as a coward, somebody who ran away, who's cut himself off completely from the Force. He hasn't touched the Force in a decade. The guy hasn't used his Force powers in 10 years. He hasn't worked to better himself. He hasn't worked to improve his Force powers for a decade. And honestly, this is one... now I'm going to start to talk about ways they could have made these films better and where they screwed up. First of all, no Luke. He dies in the second movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it yet. He dies. He sacrificed himself. Not out of some grand sense of self-sacrifice. Oh, no. He doesn't even go to face his enemies, so sends a force projection. He could have stopped Kylo Ren and ended the war, but he doesn't go there. Oh, I'll let the next generation do it. Yeah, because I'll mess it up, right? Yeah, I can't be the hero of this story. I'm a man. Nowhere in this story is a man a leader or a hero. There's no male leaders in the story. Leia, some ugly, giraffe-necked, purple-haired feminist in the second movie, is also a leader. There's no male leaders. The men, they get crapped on. They get treated like garbage. They get condescended to. The men in these movies are just fools, simps, morons. They're always screwing up. They don't know what they're doing. They're all hotheads. And all the women are the calm, cool, collected leaders. Well, they need to flip that because that's not reality. And people who go to watch these movies know that that's not reality. And they know that they are being fed a bunch of social justice warrior bullshit. And they don't like it. And they don't like it. And the only reason that this movie is getting views is because it's Star Wars. And the only reason the critics say they like it is because critics are a bunch of idiot journalists. And all journalists are social justice warrior, Democrat morons who love feminism because it's cultural Marxism and socialism. Don't you know? And if you hadn't noticed, the movie has a new Yoda. That Maz, the orange-faced little alien in the first movie, had a cantina that had been open for 1,000 years. 1,000 years, that's right. She's even older than Yoda. She's even older and wiser than Yoda. And she knows how to use the Force too. And she's better and wiser than Yoda. Don't you know? Of course, you couldn't have a male Yoda in this movie. You couldn't have the wise, all-knowing character be a man. And in the second movie, Luke, he comes across as a simp. I mean, by the end of the movie, he's just cowering in the dirt after Rey beats him in a fight. And yes, guess what? Yoda makes an appearance and essentially lectures Luke, and Luke looks like a simp, fool, idiot, like he hasn't learned anything. He's talking and simpering like it was, 35, 40 years prior. It's the whole movie makes Luke look like a freaking pussy boy wimp. He's nothing. What I wanted to see in this movie was Luke fighting. I mean, you wanted to see Luke fight with a lightsaber. You know, wouldn't that have been great to see this guy 30 years later? He's just chopping through Knights of Ren like they were nothing, and he's beating Snoke's ass, or he's fighting Snoke. Wouldn't that have been awesome? Wouldn't that have been awesome? You know, Snoke throwing out Sith lightning, Luke blocking it and fighting Snoke, and Snoke is forced to grab a lightsaber or a lightsaber staff or something, and they fight, and then, wouldn't that have been awesome? Oh, but you can't have that. You know why? Because then a man would be the hero of the story, or at least a man would be partly a hero of that story. That's just not allowed. These movies have no male heroes. Even the second movie wouldn't let a man be a hero. You had a fat little munchkin-looking Chinese chick named Rose stops Finn from sacrificing himself and saving everybody in the second movie. You'll have to watch my video doing a full review of the movie to hear all about that. But the movie will not allow men to be heroes. It even tells them, you can't be a hero. That's my job. The whole tenor of the second movie is you are not allowed to be a hero. Only I, a woman, can be the hero. And that's what's wrong with these movies entirely. There's nothing in them that involves men having any type of role. The entire movie is a feminist circle jerk. Both movies, by the way, are like that. And all so that a social justice warrior agenda can be pushed. A feminist agenda. Women are the better leaders. Men should be in a subservient position. Men are hotheads. Masculinity is toxic. The main hero of the story needs to be a woman. In fact, all the heroes of the story need to be a woman. And when the man tries to be the hero, he screws up. In every single part of the second movie where a man tries to be a hero, he messes up. And by the way, in the first movie as well, Finn can't do anything right. And Poe Dameron can't do anything right either. I mean, nobody that's male can do anything right. Why would you want to go see these movies, guys? Why would you want to go see these movies? Men are treated like crap. I mean, they are second-class citizens in these movies. They hold no prominent roles at all. They get everything wrong. While the women, everything's effortless. Oh, Ray? Nah, I didn't need to train in the Force. You know, I was just born this way, and I can do everything. It's just, it's mind-boggling. It really pisses me off. So those are the main things that bother me about these new movies. That Rey is able to fight with a lightsaber, no training, use the Force, no training, able to beat a 20-plus year Force user who has training from the most powerful Jedi to ever exist. She had no training, but, you know, so what, right? And I just love how the Star Wars fanboys try to justify these things and make it fit within some kind of canon, within some kind of framework that'll actually explain these things within the framework of the established Star Wars universe. It just doesn't work. None of it makes any sense. These movies don't make any sense. The characters are poorly developed. The plot, they've just copied the old movies. That's my other problem with these movies. They just copied the old movies. They just took elements from the old movies and put them into these new movies. In fact, the first movie in this new trilogy is just Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie all over again. And the second is The Empire Strikes Back with some little tidbits taken from Return of the Jedi and put in there as well. Are they going to do anything original with these movies? No. My main reason for going to see this was to let you guys know not to go see it. Or at the very least, to point out, to analyze, and to comment on all the areas of the movie that were social justice warrior, cultural Marxist, feminist in nature, and analyze them and to tell you why specifically they put those scenes in these movies. So you could better understand that Disney and all the other film companies have become nothing more than propaganda outlets. That's why they don't care if they lose money. They don't care. I lost money, but at least we've indoctrinated some people. And that's all these new Star Wars movies are. They're just a way to indoctrinate the young. Well, they indoctrinate as many people as they can. Young, old, whatever. But the young are more likely to be indoctrinated with these both very obvious and very subtle messages that these movies send. That women are better, stronger, smarter. They're all Mary Sues. I hate this new Star Wars trilogy more than I have hated anything in a long time. I hate it with a passion. And I wish it would just go away. Now, let me know what you think of this new Star Wars trilogy in the comments section of this video. And please like and subscribe to my channel if you would. And please donate to my Patreon because you know that YouTube will demonetize this video as they tend to demonetize most of my videos. You'll find a link in the last 20 seconds of this video and in the description for this video. That's it. I am the MgTowPhilosopher and I wish you well. Take care.